It's signed, the United States has, it's signed agreements with lots of countries to preclude American servicemen being tried in the ICC. So perhaps Rishi should be on the blower to Biden, President Biden, suggesting that the United States joins the ICC if it wants to prosecute any country for war crimes. Some hope. He's saying that the current treaties have failed Ukraine. He fails to mention the Minsk I and II agreements, which were broken and not adhered to by the France and Germany. And Merkel, the ex-chancellor of Germany, stated openly in public on the record that they had no intention of carrying out the Minsk agreements, protocols, whatever the correct name for it is. And that the whole idea was to prevaricate and draw the time out, and that would allow the Western countries to reinforce and build up Ukraine's military. So Sunak is saying that the treaties have failed and that they need a new framework, and that Ukraine will join NATO. And he'll give the support for this, and the support for Ukraine from the UK side is like basically as long as it takes, forever. Just like the support that the UK give to Afghanistan. Well, that wasn't forever. Or the support that wherever it did in that other place, Iraq or wherever. But Ukraine's different. This is going to be forever, and we've got to win. Victory. He said victory. He said win a few times. It was a short speech. It was only 5 or 6 minutes long. So he just went through the bullet points and stuff like that because he didn't have a lot of time. And basically, he comes across to me as a smoother, more polished, if you could be, version of Blair. His speaking style reminds me slightly, not exactly, the cadence and the way that he speaks the words are slightly different, but he's well spoken. He flows quite easily. He's light on his feet when he's thinking, when he's going through, when he's being asked questions, and I'll get to that later. He wraps up the end of his little mini bite-sized speech, his McNugget-sized speech, and he says that the Russia was the unprovoked aggression. That's some people, there's a body of thought says that it was provoked by the actions of Ukraine on these separatist areas that wanted to break away and have that more autonomy, but still be within Ukraine. Apparently that wasn't good enough for the Ukrainians. They said, no, you've got to stay within Ukraine. There was fighting, there was bloodshed for 7 or 8 years. Depending on which reports, there's thousands of people killed in this unprovoked aggression. If you look at it from one side, and obviously Sunak is looking at it totally from the Ukrainian side. And I would suggest that possibly he steps back and looks upon it from the total thing. Not that the war started on the 24th of February, which is coming up to the anniversary, but the hostilities and the ferment and what caused this started a number of years previous to this. And it was manifested with what happened on the 24th. He then sort of gets asked a few questions. Surprisingly, to me anyway, the first person that got up was a Ukrainian military person out of this auditorium of people. Okay. He shot up, he was right at the front, asked them, says, you know, thanks for all the military stuff that you sent us and it saved me life and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. And I think there was 4 or 5 questions asked. 4 of them were asked by Ukrainian people. And they were all kind of brown-nosed questions to Sunak, saying, you know, thanks for the armaments, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're really great, blah, blah, blah. And there wasn't any query, there wasn't any, you know, is there not another way? Is there not something that you could do other than victory and win? There's no way we can engage the Russians. There's no way we can subdue this conflict. That wasn't asked. He then went on to talk about aircraft carriers. That Britain, UK, has got a relatively new UK built up in Scotland, I believe, aircraft carrier. And this went on a world tour. And he was happy about that because it's, you know, showed that Britain's engaging with the world. What the UK at the present time needs with an aircraft carrier, which apparently is out in the Indian Ocean or the Pacific or somewhere like that, and be great for the lads on the ship, and hopefully they'll be getting, you know, some good rays and having a canny time out there. But the cost of that, I suppose it's minuscule in the size of the budget. But why do we need it? Has Spain got an aircraft carrier, or Italy, or the European sort of economic powerhouse, Germany? Have they got aircraft carriers waltzing around all over the place? I think most people know the answer to that. And people say, oh, but yeah, man, hey man, you know, we had an empire. We've got to continue flying the flag around the world, showing Britain's a global power. Yay, yay. Tell that to the people in the food banks. Tell that to the people in the NHS queue at the end. Tell them that, you know, you should be proud that we've got this aircraft carrier floating around and stuff like that. To be fair, there's bigger fish to fry, but it's just an easy one. And he mentioned it, Sunak brought it into the conversation when he was asked one of the questions. He then goes on to a depletion of stocks, the military hardware stocks that you've got, you know, shells, tanks and stuff like that. And he's basically encourages the other countries to give Ukraine your stocks. That's what you've got the stocks there for. You haven't got the stocks just to be in the warehouse. The stocks should be getting used. You should be pushing the stocks out and giving them to Ukraine. That's the best use of stocks that you've got. what's a stockpile for other than to have it for like an emergency and for usage, and this is an emergency and this is usage and you should get on with it. He then used a word about what this military hardware would be used for when it gets sent to Ukraine, and that was to degrade the Russians. Didn't say kill them, blow them up. Said degrade, or just, it's nice. It's nice. It's a nicer word, isn't it, than kill or blow them up. Degrade. We just kind of give them these munitions, these long range, so they can degrade the Russians. If you're going to send them this stuff, say what you're sending it for. It's going to be used to kill people with. Yes, it's going to be used, I agree, it's going to be used to defend Ukrainians, partly. It's also going to be used in an offensive thing. But no mention of peace, no mention of peace talks, nothing whatsoever. Someone that was more cynical than me might have said that some of these questions were planted and stuff like that. He was asked about China.
From backup completed.
Backup's complete. It was asked about China, and he didn't want to go there. But peace is not on the menu as far as I can tell. As a speaker, forgetting about the content of the speech, which I've just went over. As a speaker, I've just said before, I think he's on a par with Cameron or Blair. He beats Brown, May, Johnson in Truss by a country mile. He speaks well. He's got a light speaking style. As I say, vaguely reminiscent to me of Blair, without quite the lawyer sort of phrasing that Blair used and the sort of cadence that Blair used. He's light on his feet when the questions, whether these questions a more cynical person than me might have said were planted. He kept them well away from peace. Just didn't even mention, doesn't want to engage with the Russians. He wants to degrade them by giving them this stuff. He wants to win, said that a couple of times, in victory. And basically his simple message was win in victory. It seems to be universal across the governing class in the Tory party and some of the leaders in the Labour Party not to even bring up a mention of peace. At some point, this war will be over. The only option that Sunak seems to have is win. I don't think that's a good way, personally, to deal with it. And there's a lot more people going to get killed with that attitude. I've got no idea which way it'll turn out. But I would like to see more of these countries perhaps trying to generate some push for peace. Not in this meeting, but on other people speaking, there seems to be a reluctance to even contemplate peace talks along the lines of, just give Putin time to build up his forces, he'll just conway in doing it, and it would be a proper peace. I don't know. I cannot read people's minds. But I think this win victory at all costs, paying all this money. I know in the grand scheme of things, by the amount of debt that the UK has, it's comparatively small, like a thousandth of the national debt. But it could do some good in the UK. Could help some people that need help in the UK. Bear in mind that it's UK companies and citizens which generate this money. Obviously, the government's borrowing a lot. I have my doubts about the attitude of the politicians towards this war and that ability to get it wound up and get it back to an even keel of peace. I think the hand of the United States, the glove puppet, controlling British politics in certain aspects from the United States. Britain is a useful idiot for them in lots of ways. The Americans don't want to give planes. Ring the Brits up, get them to do that, get them to train the pilots. Sunak was saying, you know, anybody wants to give planes forward to train the Ukrainians on, you know, we are happy to manage it and stuff like that. We'll give you longer range weapons. These are things that the Americans have kind of balked at. The Americans don't want to get any soldiers in Ukraine. They don't want to get NATO. They don't want to go toe to toe with the Russians because obviously the Russians have a reasonable amount of firepower. Don't know. That's me just throwing spaghetti against the wall, thinking these things. But it's amazing how all these British prime ministers all sing identical songs. Not one of them says anything other than win, victory, war, forward, charge. All the politicians I hear saying the same thing. The people I speak to on the street, people in normal life, I don't hear that. I hear people saying, you know, there's no way we can get this sorted out. Anyway, that's my thoughts. That was a speech by Rishi Sunak, the UK Prime Minister. For how long, who knows? If there's an election in the next couple of years, I think he stands a good chance of getting the Spanish. Arrow person to be out. Perhaps, maybe, who knows? The politics changes. And 10.